First, the first policy I think we should go for is the cap auction trade system for basic resources, especially fossil fuels. And I'm delighted that our president is pushing that. A cap or a quota limits the biophysical scale of the activity according to environmental source or sink constraint, whichever one is most stringent. The auction then of these quotas captures the scarcity rents to make them available for equitable redistribution. And then trade allows for the efficient allocation to the highest uses of the limited amount. So this policy serves three goals: sustainable scale, fair distribution, and efficient allocation. And it serves them with three policy instruments: the cap, the auction, and the trading. So that would be my first suggestion. A second policy suggestion would be what we in ecological economics have for some time been calling ecological tax reform. The idea here is to shift the tax base away from value added, that is labor and capital, and onto that to which value is added, namely the entropic throughput of resources extracted from the environment and eventually returned as waste pollution. This would internalize costs as well as raise revenue and do it more equitably. It would put a price on the scarce but previously unpriced contribution of nature. It can be used either as a substitute or a complement for the cap auction trade systems. In some areas, cap auction trade would be better. Perhaps in other areas, the ecological tax reform would be better. As the bumper sticker puts it, tax bads, not goods. The third basic policy suggestion for consideration is to limit the range of inequality in income distribution. That is a minimum income and a maximum income. We've had a lot of support for minimum income, but until recently, people have not been much in favor of a maximum income. That may be changing. We know that without aggregate growth, poverty reduction absolutely requires some redistribution. And we know that complete equality is unfair, and we know that unlimited inequality is unfair. So let's seek fair limits to inequality. The civil service, the military, and the universities managed to get along with a range of inequality of a factor of about 15 to 20. Corporate America has a range of over 500. So as a step, couldn't we reduce the total range to, say, a factor of 100, and let's see how that works and experiment with it? Do we really need a factor of 500? No, I don't think so. The fourth suggestion would be to free up the length of the working day, week, and year. Allow greater option for leisure, greater option for personal work. Full-time external employment is hard to provide for everyone without growth. And furthermore, I think time is needed. Time away from work is needed for what truly satisfies us, namely family, friendship, and community. These things cannot flourish without time. 5, re-regulate international commerce, move away from free trade, free capital mobility, and globalization, adopt compensating tariffs to protect what? Not inefficient industries, but to protect efficient national policies of cost internalization. Protect them from what? From standards lowering competition by other countries which, for whatever reasons, have more lax environmental laws, lower wages, and so forth. Number 6, I think we should downgrade the IMF, the World Bank, and the WTO to something like John Maynard Keynes's original plan for Bretton Woods, for a multilateral payments clearing union which would charge penalty rates on surplus as well as deficit balances in the balance of trade. The idea would be to seek balance on current account and thereby avoid large capital transfers and foreign debt. In Keynes's plan, countries with a deficit with the rest of the world would pay a big penalty. Countries with a surplus with the rest of the world would also pay a big penalty. So for each side of the imbalance would have an incentive to bring about balance. I think we should revisit that idea. Number 7, let's move away from fractional reserve banking towards a system of 100% reserve requirements. That would put the control of the money supply and of seigniorage. Seigniorage is the profit made by the issuer of token money. That would put the control of money supply and seigniorage in the hands of the government rather than in the hands of private banks. Allowing private banks to create money out of nothing and then lend it at interest has always been a bad idea. It's become a lot worse recently. So I would say, in summary, let's first nationalize money and not the banks. Number 8, we should enclose the remaining commons of rival natural capital in public trusts and pricing, while freeing from private enclosure and prices the non-rival commonwealth of knowledge and information. In other words, stop treating the scarce as if it were non-scarce, on the one hand, and also let's stop treating the non-scarce as if it were scarce. Knowledge is non-rival. It should be freely shared. So let's cut back on both the scope and length of patent monopolies and share knowledge. Number 9, stabilize population. Let's work towards a balance in which births plus in-migrants equals deaths plus out-migrants. Now that's controversial, but at least couldn't we support voluntary family planning and enforcement of our immigration laws, which were democratically enacted in spite of the cheap labor lobby? Number 10, finally, reform national accounts. Separate GDP into a cost account and a benefits account and compare them at the margin. Stop growing when marginal costs equal marginal benefit, a rule not unfamiliar to economists. Never add up the two accounts. And let us stop counting capital drawdown as if it were income. Well, these 10 policies, then, I would suggest move us from a failed growth economy, which is what we're experiencing now, in the direction of a steady state economy. That is, one that would not emit ever increasing amounts of greenhouse gases and provoke climate disaster. Now, in conclusion, I'll just say a couple of things. These policies may appear radical to many. So it's worth remembering, though, that in addition to being amenable to very gradual application, they are based on the conservative institutions of private property and decentralized market allocation. They simply recognize, one, that private property loses its legitimacy if it is too unequally distributed, and that markets lose their legitimacy if prices do not tell the whole truth about costs. In addition, the macroeconomy becomes an absurdity if its scale is structurally required to grow beyond the biophysical limits of the earth. And well before that radical physical limit, we are encountering the conservative economic limit, in which the extra costs of growth become greater than the extra benefits, ushering in the new era of uneconomic growth, so far unrecognized. Well, I think maybe climate change may be the first step in the recognition of uneconomic growth and in our ability to, or eagerness to do something about it. Thank you very much for your attention.